Hello there and welcome to my little arty corner. It's rather warm here today in the valleys of South Wales, as it has been for a while. Luckily I think we're having a break a bit on Sunday where there's some rain forecast and cooler temperatures at the beginning of the week. But we shall see. On today is the 15th of June, it's Thursday. So I did put a post in the community section showing the first 6 pages in my new sketchbook. You've seen a couple of them. I've got the first one here, my little dragon, the A that I haven't done anything to. This is the one that I did with you in my last video. I have put some patterns over here, but I thought, oh no, I wasn't supposed to do that, and people wanted to see me do it. This one I created in Entangle with Tracy, Entangle I think it is, which is a completely free Zentangle lesson on a Tuesday evening with my friend Tracy Hoff. And I'll put a link to that in the description below so that if you wish to join in. It's 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock UK time every Tuesday usually. And I didn't do the tile, but I made use of the Zentangle patterns because I decided that I was going to work in this book. And yesterday was when I added colours. And one thing I need to learn is a lot of the colours here, there's not a lot of difference in contrast. There is at the bottom, but here a lot of the colours are getting missed. I could have done with a lighter colour in the background rather than this darker blue. And I darkened the blue up more with texture lines, and it didn't help much. I was glad I put the darker colours around the edges, and this has been done with a mixture of the Kuretake Gansai Tambi paints, which you can see here. But I did go back over those and use Karin Brush Marker Pros just to intensify the colours, because again everything was looking very samey and I wanted some change. But it is what it is, it's in a sketchbook, and I wish I hadn't put the white dots on this. But I can't do anything about it because they're in pigment ink, which is permanent, and I know if I try and put something black over the top, it'll just stick out anyway, so I'm stuck with it. This is one I drew yesterday or the day before. And it started it the day before and finished it off yesterday. And it was fine until I started adding colour. And I did coloured pencils up here, but they just showed too much of the colour through underneath. So I switched to Inktense in places, and that's more vibrant. Well, the background I did with Distress Inks, and I did it because I'd used a fair amount of water in some areas here, and layers, some of the colours had bled through, or you could see through. So I decided to distress ink the heck out of it and draw on the top. Part of me's thinking perhaps I should have left it without any colour or just done gold and so on. I haven't put any gold on there yet, I might do. And this page is one I'm working on, and yet the D is gold. But I've used gold gouache for that. Gouache, I think is what that's all I've always called it. That's what the art teachers in the school I taught at always called it, gouache. And it's gold, and it's lovely and shiny. First time I've used gouache for a long time, and certainly not that kind of quality. This one was from Royal Talons, and it comes in a pot rather than in a tube, so it wasn't that expensive really, but it's really nice. And I'm able to draw on the top of it as well, because I went over lines and I had a pattern in the middle here and I really didn't want that pattern. So you can see that I've given it a couple of fine borders around it, and this is a very old-fashioned kind of D that you would see in illuminated manuscripts from Unsealed Script and so on, and sometimes that kind of D appears in my handwriting. The shapes of letters can change with me depending on my mood and what I'm thinking about and being influenced by. D's and E's and A's mainly. So got that. I put Diva Dance around here, and part of me thinks, why did you do that? But I'm going to trust the process, and I'm going to persevere with this and see where it leads me. And that's what I'm going to do today. Glasses on, I've got a pen in hand. Ooh, 2 ticks. Because I do want... There it is. Should have been easy if I got off my ass and went and got this, but I didn't. With my yellow notebook, which I'm starting to organise my favourite patterns and borders. There's borders and texture patterns, borders and botanicals in here I'm starting to put in. And yes, I'm adding some colour to them because I can. So I haven't got too many pages done, but it's a long-term project. It's not something I'm going to rush at. It's something I can do when I'm not feeling particularly grand. Okay, that one needs a clip on it to stop the pages flapping around. This one I'm all right because I've got a fan on because it's so warm. Okay, so I'm going to start filling these in, and I want to use some of these patterns that are inspired by Rebecca Blair, because I absolutely love this kind of thing. The more, you know, at the moment it's my in thing, I think. And it's good to change things up. I'm just going back here and just darkening the edges of these sections, because as they're thin they look a bit out of place. Yeah, and I think I need to go over the bumpy bits as well. The colours for Distress Inks here I chose, I actually can't remember. That's Seedless Preserves. I think I used Broken China. Did I? No, that's Mermaid Lagoon. I think it is. This is Twisted Citron. But with the background colours, it's gone, it's mixed with the blues and purples and created a lovely sort of like weird shades, but they actually work. So I'm quite happy with those. It reminds me of heathers and things like that. So I'm just going to go over and do this while I'm at it. So I'll give you an update on the investigations into why I'm so tired all the time and unable to do very much for very long. I will do that forthwith. But let's have a look at this. So with these I'm going to fill them in with various patterns, and then I'm going to find a way to add colour or shading to them to bring them out. It's likely to be colour for shading. So with this one I'm going to just fill it in with pebblish shaped pieces. So I had the results of my blood tests and a discussion with the doctor yesterday, and there's nothing much to worry about. My iron and B12 are on the low side of normal, so I've been prescribed tablets to take to see if we can boost them up a bit more, because what's normal for most people, there's always a few outliers like me, but that doesn't really explain it. But we talked about other things, and you know, I mentioned that I'm perimenopausal. You're not counted as menopausal unless you've missed your monthly cycle for a year, and my last one was 7 months ago. And he's asked if I'd consider HRT. Well, I know a little bit about HRT, and I know the horror stories that concerned it many years ago. So he sent me a leaflet of information about it, unbiased. It gave you everything: side effects, pros, cons, the different modern kinds. And after speaking with my older sister, who had HRT after an emergency hysterectomy in her 40s, I think it was, she said it was absolutely brilliant. So I thought, okay then. So I phoned up this morning to ask if I could speak to a doctor about it. So one of the doctors who deals with this phoned me back not long ago and talked through it and worked out where I am in my menopausal state. And she said, gosh, you are late, aren't you? Yes, I'm nearly 60. And she said, yeah, that's, you know, most people, you know, in their early 50s or late 40s. I went, yes, I know. But she said, it's okay. You know, the earlier we start, the better. She said, you haven't come to menopause, so you will see a big benefit. So we talked about the options, and rather than take the oral tablet, which has more problematic effects, I'm having a skin patch, and the advantage of that is that the hormones bypass your liver, because that causes blood clots, which is great. Not that I have a problem with that. So I start that as soon as I get the prescription, get it filled later this afternoon. I'm not going out now, it's too it's, what is it? It's 2:30, 20 to 3, and it's still blazingly hot outside, so that is not my idea of fun. So there's that, and there was some cream or gel prescribed for me as well that needs to be applied topically somewhere personal, shall we say. And so, you know, she was talking, she said there's a lot of symptoms you've got that, you know, they are associated with the menopause. We'll try this for 3 months. If you get any side effects or any questions, just call back and we'll see what happens. You may need a lower dose, you may need things adjusting. The patch we've given you may not be right for you. And, you know, may have skin irritation from it, things like that. So there's no problem about this. We'll eventually get it sorted. So it can take a wee while for things to settle down again. And so I'm really hopeful about that. Now, please, I think everybody's healthcare is their own personal prerogative. I really do think that. I think that, you know, everybody's entitled to make their own decisions about it. And certainly that is the way that the healthcare I certainly receive here in Wales. I'm not sure about in England. I think it's the same there. It's always a discussion with the patient about, these are your options. What would you like to do? You know, what do you think you need? How are you doing? You know, and that means that you're not told that this is what's going to happen. It's done in a very, you know, sort of like it's in a partnership, I suppose, and caring kind of way. So I'd prefer not to have to take medication, but I'm not coping well. And if I can't work, that's not a good thing. So if it can stop me feeling tired, give me some of the bounce back in my, you know, legs and some energy, and stop feeling so weak and pathetic, and it may have a knock-on effect on mental health, then we'll get there. It's a long journey, isn't it, to discover this, but, you know, everything out. But I am going to get there. I'm absolutely sure of it. So thank you for letting me talk to you about it. But I know I'm not going to be the only one going through such things. And I also know, this is from a female perspective because I am female. And this is something that all women just about have to go through at one point in time or other. So I do understand there's talk about there isn't such a thing as a male menopause. I'm sure I've read that, you know, properly scientifically now, because there's changes in hormones in male bodies as well. But I think the more we talk about it and raise awareness and make it a thing that people can talk about, like with mental health, then it's better for everybody. So, you know, you don't need to suffer in silence, that there are options for you. And nowadays, the HRT is incredibly safe because it's changed so much in the last 20 years. So that's a good thing. So there we go. All right, I've done some things here. I've just put like little ovals in there, like little balls in some way. This one, I think I'm going to do lines that connect. Dots that are along the edge and just a dot there. Okay, I think I may have to do some Zentangle, because if I describe this as Zentangle inspired. And this one, I really do feel like I'd like to put some spirals in. So that's good. Don't know if I mentioned, but I've been given an extra 4 weeks. I've got until the end of July to complete the Daydreams book. So that also gives me breathing space to cope with any problems I have with the patches and so on. Fingers crossed there won't be any, that they'll really make a difference fairly soon, hopefully. But if not, then adjustments can be made as required and all's good. So, you know, sort of things are just sort of like falling together nicely, which is a good thing. Even though I hate to ask for extra time, but it's better for me to do it earlier rather than later. So that's quite nice. I think this one, we'll treat this section a bit like betweed. So I'm going to aura this up to the top, and I'm going to put a little bit of ink on the base there as I go. I'm filling in little gaps here. I used an 05 pen for this because the lines are very bold, and they're bolder than an 05 pen. But that means that I've not always coloured in the gaps in the pen properly. So I was doing it sat in bed last night. No, I was sat at the desk, but the light wasn't very good because I didn't turn the lamp intensity up. So I can be a bit like that. It's okay. If nothing else, if this doesn't work out, it's a nice resource for ideas and, you know, just things, just stuff. And that's what your sketchbook should be. I mean, I'm not doing these to have perfection. This one I'm likely to leave as it is. And I might use it then as a place to test out different media to see what effects I can get, what's the best to use with the distress ink background and so on. Because I'm really not. This is just so dull here and I don't know what to do about it. I use coloured pencils and Gamsol, and they were ChromaFlow, which are quite translucent. Not as translucent as the luminance, but they're beautiful. I used to have a set of them, but they've been long used up. And I decided I wasn't going to get any more coloured pencils. Says she who not long ago bought ChromaFlow. Did you not? Okay, so in this one, I think I'm going to create kind of crazed pavement kind of thing. Made out of cracked tiles, mosaic-ish. And just see what that looks like, just breaking it up into little pieces. And I'm not going to round the ends of those, I'm going to leave them exactly as they are, I think. So that's quite nice. Just do a couple more over here and then I'll have a go with some colour. Though I should have put the colour in before I did this, but perhaps I won't colour all of them in, perhaps I'll just add colour to parts. I do want to, going back to these spirals here, the printemps of Zentangle. And I'm just going to add some ink to the bottom half of these, of each of the curls of the spiral, just to add a feeling of volume, I suppose. So I'm just going to fill in the little spaces in between with black, so that just helps things to stand out as well. So something I'm going to have to focus on is making sure I've got enough contrasting colours that things stand out. I've realised that I don't always. I tend to choose colours that are equally saturated. It might be my style, but I'd like to try to broaden it. So that's quite nice. Okay, so here, let's have a look. This little one here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw what looks like little, the starts of crescent moon. But the next ones, I'm going to meet them on the other side, so they look a bit like crazy teeth, I suppose. But we'll make them look less like teeth in a moment, probably. So I'm just filling in the gaps in between them. It just creates, the shapes in between are really interesting. I like the way these little gaps form these interestingly spiky shapes, so you can focus on that. I think I'll leave that as it is, because if I use colour I want to come back and put the ink on top of the colour, not underneath it really. And then I need one more, just looking in my little book here because I have many things, just to make me think about what I could do. I wouldn't mind having a pattern that goes this way, so what I'm going to do is I think we'll start here. And I'm going to fill this roughly with columns, the rounded tops and bottoms and bits in between, that sort of mimic the top part here, but I am going to split them into pieces and round each of those pieces off so it's a bit different. I've got those spaces to fill then. So your sketchbook, there's a lot of people who show their sketchbooks that are perfect and finished, and that's all well and good. If that's what you want a sketchbook to be, then fine. But I tend to think of sketchbooks as more places to try things out, to keep ideas in. Yes, I sometimes do finished pieces of work in a sketchbook because a sketchbook may be what I have to hand. But I also will use them like this, where I try something out, realise that I don't like it, realise that I've got to start sketching because, oh, that's what I didn't do. I didn't put the line on the outside of this because I didn't think I was going to put mukas going underneath things in this kind of way, and they did. And I've now got little squares there, which is fine because I could work with that. But I think I'm going to have to start using pencils if I'm going to do something like that and plan things out first a little bit more. Who knows? That's always a possibility with me. Okay, I am going to do some on this side because I've got this lovely green here. This side I'm going to use triangles like so. I'm going to draw triangles within. Trying to keep the distance between the lines, the spacing here about the same, but I'm learning to embrace imperfection. So that's quite interesting, but I think what I'd like to do with these is I just want to put a little curvy bit in. Now, do I fill that in black? I could do. It's kind of like an upside down, very rounded flat. Oops, as I go the wrong way. It's fine. I'll disguise that. Says me, who's just said I'm going to embrace imperfection. Obviously not in some instances. Right, this one's just going to have little bumps there. I actually think I might just fill them in. Like so, and if I want to, I can make them that little bit bigger. Adjust them so I get a shape inside that I like. Bottom one definitely needs to go up a little bit because that's the one. It's a bit odd. They remind me of windows in old cathedrals and abbeys and churches, or the stone carving you get in the sculpture that decorates the outsides and sometimes the insides of churches. Just reminds me of that. There we go, we'll just get rid of that. So that makes me happy. Actually, I really like that. I like the way that they change in size as well, because that gives you a feeling of the object bending, and I can play with that when I add colour. Okay, got this one here now then. That's going to be interesting. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a sprig of leaves in here. I'm going to have the petals, the leaves all black, totally contrasting to the background, so I may not add much in the way of colour or shading here. And I'm making the leaves that little bit bigger as I go down. And that will work. I think that little leaf's just going to grow out a little bit, because it can, and I'll have that just going down. There we are. So that's something a bit different. It's sort of tight. It sort of feels a bit similar to the Diva dance, but I think it's more because there's so much black there. Okay, what else can I do? I think here I'm going to start with, because this is roughly triangular in shape, so I'm going to start with a nice circle. I'm going to create like 3 pointed areas. So I am going to draw shapes of leaves in, filling these little spaces in with black. Oh, that's lovely, that spiky one there. Seems a shame to cover that one up, so I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it as it is. I really like that spiky one. And I'm leaving it as it is to remind me that I like that kind of shape and to start to use that in my work, because this is what we do. Who's to say I can't have a spiky one with some curvy ones? Just put those in there. That was unexpected. Ooh, I'm happy. Happy, happy, happy. Doesn't take much to make me happy though, does it? Okay. What can we do with some of these? I think I know what I'm going to do. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw in bars that are kind of broken, and they'll create a line between them. Now I've got choices here what I do, because I could colour the back in and leave these ones staring out, or I could colour these in black and leave the background behind. I'm undecided. Just add a bit of black there. Part of me wants to fill all of this in black, so I've got these lovely colours inside them. Yeah, I think I will. Just bear with me while I do that. Always choices to make. And you've got me, an example of me thinking out loud here. I don't often think. I just tend to go, well, perhaps I do, but I don't often think in words. I just sort of like go, yes, off I go, do it, without much thought. Well, it seems not much thought, but obviously there must be thought going on in some way or another. I hear myself talk, you know, my inner self-talk, my inner monologue, but I don't actually hear my thoughts as in what I'm going to do or how I'm going to do something or the decisions I make. So my inner monologue is mostly me telling me off, with a voice that sounds like my mother's, which is great. Not. That's a whole different story. Okay, let's have a look. Got these lovely shapes again here. I'm going to do, over here, I'm going to do another one of the betweeds, I think. But let's start from the bottom and bring them around the top to start to overlap here in a different way than the one on the other side did. You get a different kind of shape then. So it's the same pattern, but it looks different simply because I drew it from the point to the flat edge, and here I drew it from the flat edge to the point. If that makes sense. Hope it does. So just something simple like that gives a whole different feel to a pattern. So that's nice. Let's have a look. One more bit, possibly. Okay, let me draw a kind of grid here. And what do I want to do here? Do I want to pop that in that way? Because that's roughly where it is. And I'm going to draw diamonds in here. What I'm doing is alternating where the black is. So with this triangle, I filled the outside of the triangle in. This one I filled the inside of the triangle in. So this one's going to have the inside filled in, and so on. So we're getting a kind of repeating pattern there. Might not always hit the centre at the bottom, but I'm fine about that. Okay, and then there's this one which is quite short and fat, and it is the, I'm going to, idiot. It's okay, I'll do it that way and it looks like the point's somewhere. So I need to do the same up here, but instead of colouring the triangle in black above it, I'm going to colour the outside bit in black. And for this one, I'm going to colour the triangle in black. So just by using simple geometric shapes. Oops. There we go. Oh no, we've done it wrong again. It's talking, not concentrating on what I'm doing. Be fine, it'll be fine. So we've got a different kind of pattern going on there. And again, quite heavy on the black ink, but I'm not often heavy on black ink, it has to be said. So this very last section, I'm going to turn my book this way so I can rest my hand comfortably on here. I want to put something in here, and I think I know what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to fill it with what in Zentangle terms would be called orbs. I'm going to start with big ones at the bottom, smaller ones towards the middle. I'll go back and fill all of these little gaps in, and then get to really tiny ones towards the top. So using different sizes can help to give a sense of volume or form, shape, dimension, whatever you want to call it. It's not shape, dimension, volume, 3D look. So the more black there is, the darker the area, that part of this section is, and the further away it feels. Or looks, I should say, because we're not feeling them, are we? So we've got that. So I filled those in, and I'm quite happy with them. So now it's going to be, what colours do I add to these? What shall I use? I want something that would be quite, oops, let me just pop that there. So I've got that. Inktense. Seems like a good idea to me. Let me get my Inktense pencils. We'll be fine, we're good to go here. And hopefully I'll find my water brush. Should be in my pencil case. It is, there we go. And I did have, and I still have, I brought some kitchen towel upstairs with me. So I've got these. Now that lovely colour there is very much like thistle, so I need to find thistle. It's mauve, there's thistle. So I'm putting my distress inks off to one side. So this thistle is very similar to this lovely mauvey colour. And I think I'm going to put some of it to begin with at the ends here where that colour is. So I'm going to try and choose Inktense pencils that actually blend in with the, or so I can intensify the colours of the distress ink that's there. And this does it very subtly. I might use some of my little lovely spots of water. But if I do that, I do that. It's a compromise I'll make. There'll be hopefully a lot of the texture, the background texture will remain in the spaces where I perhaps don't use colour. I know I can seal this in. I could seal the distress ink with gesso, possibly, though that tends to move it. I could use microglaze, which would be fab, but drawing on top of it and painting on top of it is not a good thing. So I'm just adding some thistle just there, this outside bit, because there was enough there for me to make use of. And then what I'm going to do is with these bits here, I'm just going to add little hints of thistle at the bottom, just to make the bottom a little bit darker, and just to give me that feeling that there's some shadow perhaps on one side, perhaps at the bottom and towards one side. There we go, so we've got that. Alright, so this section I think I'm going to use the thistle in some sections, but the others I might leave for other colours. So I'm looking whether I've got space for another one, I think here. I don't want them next door to each other. I just want to add some extra colour just to add some interest to this section. Coloured pencils are best for this, you know, the Gamsol and so on, but I'm not going to risk mucking this one up. I'm not very fussed on it, but I don't want to muck it up at the same time. It feels odd because I only got these little bits of colour in places. Actually, let's play with different places to have the dark colour on and see how that works. Have it going in different directions. Always a good plan, possibly. Missed two, but that's okay, I'll go back and sort them. Sometimes I like the monochrome work. Once I start adding too many colours, I almost feel that I'm losing out on something. So that's worked quite nicely. And I have got some more, there's some of this pinky, purpley, thistle-y colour left here. So I'm going to put quite a bit of it down at the bottom here. And I'm going to keep the bottom nice and dark. And then, using my paper towel just to remove the excess colour, I'm just going to get the rest to just spread out that little bit. So that really makes that area dark. I do want to do the same kind of thing here, I think. But I've got so much of the same colour, I want to use a different colour there, so I might try and use a darker blue or something, which would be fun. Okay. What about these? I'm going to put the dark at the top, I think, of each section. If that works out nicely enough, then it should look like the tops are further down than the bottoms. Trying to keep the colour towards the top, so it's darkest there. It's really nice when you've got this very similar colour in your media you want to add colour to. This with. I could use distress inks themselves, because if you press the inks onto a plastic surface you can use them like watercolours, and they'll always, even if they dry up, you can just reactivate them with some water. I've got re-inkers as well for some of the colours, so I could just put a spot of those down, and it's so concentrated, a little bit goes a long way, a bit like Inktense really. So we're getting a lot of pink here. On the other side it's going to be interesting because that's going to be green. So here I'm going to put some of this thistle at the tops and also at the bottoms, because I want this to feel that we're bending upwards and then inwards. Oh, I won't do that there. Use a different colour perhaps on the outside. So I don't want to spread too much colour, so I'm being very delicate here, trying to keep most of the colour where I want it the darkest and just gently moving colour out. If I need to, I can always pick some of the colour up with a clean brush. These little ones are the trickier ones to do. That's just going to be all dark, as is that one. I'm not fussing about with such tiny areas. This one. Done. There we go. And this one's nearly done as well. So I think you're getting the idea of what I'm going to be doing. Yeah, ooh, I'm going to have to put thistle there, and here, and there, and there. So I did that on the outside one over on the other side, so, but I can always come back with another colour over the top if I wish. There we go. Just add a bit more the dark colour there. So there we are, we've got that going on. So that's beginning to look interesting, and if I pick the page up so that gold catches the light, it's a really intense D. I think I'm going to sneeze, excuse me if I do. Okay, I'm going to go on this side now, so I'm going to look for a green. Excuse me. I know which one I want. I've got beach green, which turns a sort of, it's not as bright a greeny colour as this, but it does turn a nice your yellowy green, a deeper one. So I'll put some here on the where the diva dance is. I can just start to work this out, dissolve it, and work it out. So that works quite nicely with that bright green. So let's have a look. Okay, with these triangles I am going to put the dark green at the points of the triangles and then blend them out, and then the inside bits I'm going to actually do them in gold. I have decided. I probably won't use the gold gouache, I'll use the calligraphy ink. I think that'll work nicely. There we go. And even though it's got pinky over here, I'm still going to make this green the dominant colour here. What would be useful, I'm just thinking about this, would be to actually leave a gap on the page instead of filling it up, to leave a space to write or to record what media I use, so that if I want to use the colours again, though I'm getting used to colours, I get a bit worried I'm going to forget things, which is ridiculous in its way, but you never know. So I can replicate what I've done. Or, you know, the backgrounds especially, but then no two Distress ink backgrounds are ever the same, even if you use the same colours. That's the fun of them. And on this paper, this is Royal Talon's Creative Arts Sketchbook. It's quite stiff paper. It has got a bit of texture to it, but the Distress inks don't go down very smooth. And I love that because I've instantly got an imperfect background, which I have to embrace. I'm sure I could make it perfect if I wanted to. But to be honest with you, the quicker I can do something like that, get it dried, the quicker I can work on it. And the less precious I might be about it if I, spent a lot of time getting it a lovely, beautiful, perfect blend. So that looks nice on that side. And I quite like the duality here, that we've got two sides, so a duality of colours, which is quite good because it's a letter D. D for dual, D for duality. We're doing good here. So with this one, I'm going to put dark green at the base of these inner ones, and then I'm going to put dark green at the tip of these, so we should get a variety of shades there. Again, because this is a sketchbook, if I don't like what I've produced, it's no big thing. It's just something to look back on and go, no, you don't want to do that, Angela. Or look back and go, actually, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. You know, we're all our own harshest critics, and there's quite a few of you who've left comments for me about various things. And I think it's learning to embrace. It's about learning to embrace who you are, how your hand-eye and muscle coordination works, and accepting that it makes you unique rather than trying to be somebody else. Because, we're all different, and I'm still finding it hard to accept who I am when it comes to things artistic. Now for this one, I'm going to add shading in a slightly different way. I'm going to take it just from the tips there. I quite like adding colour in little spaces. Other people find it really frustrating and annoying. But I really like this. And I'm glad I've done these this way because it gives me options as to how I fill these in with colour, how I create these spaces. I'm making sure I activate all of that Inktense and just smooth it out a bit. But you know, if it's not perfect, I'm not going to fret about it. It is what it is. So that's worked really nicely. Okay, this one has got to be green going on here, hasn't there, for all of these leaves? And I think I'm going to pop it all around the outside. Yeah, I'm going over the black ink, not fussing around here. So let's have a look and see if we can, picking up some of the pigment. That's the odd thing about this, is I forgot to use an eraser to pick up the loose pigment on the surface of the ink, but it'll be fine. Just gives a slightly different colour green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that quite dark on the edges, that inside bit quite bright. I'm just picking up a little bit more of this green from the tip of the pencil on the brush, so I can just darken these little corner areas just that little bit more and really give that dark tint as if they are really, you know, pointing away from it all to give some volume. So I'll check I check on my computer as well as I'm doing this to see whether these things work. In my head they do, but elsewhere they don't. This is all lovely and green. Well, there's a hint of purple there, but we're going to turn it all green. So again, just a bit of, get these working. Just going to have it going around. I'm going to try and leave a nice light spot in the middle, like so. So we've got a highlight there. May not be able to do it on the smaller ones, so I'll keep the darkness at bay at the bottom. More green there, which I don't mind that not having highlights, because it then gives it that appearance that we are sinking inwards, and it does, doesn't it? Oh good, that worked. Not that I expected that. There is green in these, and I'm going to add green, just a hint of it at the tops and the bottom. No, the tops of all of them rather than the bottoms of the bottom ones. And let's have a look and see if we can get some interesting things going on here, just to bring out this in a different way. Colour, once you put black on it, the background colour isn't as dark as you think it is. Pales, so I'm just adding some of this green here, because we're making this all about green, aren't we, on this side. This is interesting, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to put green where I've got these ones pointing upwards and downwards, and then I'm going to put purple, I think, in the middle of these. There's a fair amount of purple in places here. So I'm looking, that one's down, yeah, that's a triangle down. This one as well. Okay, so in these ones I'm going to put purple at the base of these triangles. Should be there and there. And that will give a different, that will pick out the pattern I want you to see in this. So I could have picked them out in groups of 4, because this looks almost like a windmill. So I could have picked out the windmills, but I've chosen not to. So we've got 2 different colours there. Still see the windmills though. On this side, I've got a couple of things still to do. I've got this, oops, got green in my hand, so we don't want green in my hand here. So I am just going to pop purple around these in sort of like semicircle shapes. Once we get down to the little bits, it's just a little bit along the bottom, but where I can, I'm sort of going up, you know, left, bottom, right. As you look at it, you know as it's going to be. So let's have a look here. Darken those up. Let's have a look here. I can avoid working too far into the centre of these. I should be able to keep some of this texture from the distress inks in place. There. Okay, I do want to add colour. Now here, along this area, we've actually got purple in here, so I'm going to add that purple in. There's a lot of green underneath, so we may get a bit of a strange colour as they mix, but I'm okay with that because that's exactly what's happened with the distress inks. And if I really wanted to, I could have put green at this end. Not chancing, well, perhaps I will do in another one. So here, perhaps I'll put some of the purple this end. Then I'll put green at the other end. This beach green, and let's see how they mix and mingle, shall we? So we get that same strange kind of colour in between, which is fine because it's two colours mixed together and you get that gradient from one to the other. And they work because they, you know, they've mixed elsewhere. What I haven't got is any of the bluey colour that I've used. So I'm just going to use greens along here because that's what the dominant colour is in these sections, although this one's got quite a bit of blue in. I think I know which blue would work. Yeah, I've got little tiny writings, so I could write the names of the Inktense colours I've used here. Distress inks, I think I remember what they were, but I could be wrong. I do know. I think I did use a purple. Did I just use the blue? I can't remember. I did this last night, before midnight and just after. Carried on just after, because it was too warm to settle down to sleep. Yeah, so I do need some blue here. I could do with some, we're going to go crazy here. We're going to add some of the purple there. And I think for the blue, let me have a look. Dark aquamarine might do it, but excuse the pence, the zipper opening. What I think would be mineral blue is lovely, but so is. It's a bit light, so I'm going to go for the mineral blue. Yeah, that's a bit darker, but I think it'll work nicely. So let's just add some here and we can blend these together. Heck, there's an experiment. It's not something I'd normally do, but I know the blue and purple will blend nicely because blue and purple always do. Mostly. And this is blending nicely as well. So I've got, oh, there we are, that worked. Ish. Again, I might need just a little bit more of the thistle because there's not enough of the colour here. So I'm just picking the colour up using my brush from the tip of the pencil, just stroking it along, not putting it right on the very tip. Because if that wets the tip and I go to colour, then I'll end up with a lot more Inktense down than I want. That actually works nicely. So I might actually, where I've got blue here, I'm just going to come back here. I'm going to add a bit more blue and create a bluer green just there. Where else did I have some blue? I don't know, but that's looking okay. So I'll just do these sides now. There is a bit of blue here, so I'm going to add a little bit of blue at this edge. Again, it just starts to add a little bit of variation. So I don't know when I'm going to post this because I'm looking at the time. So it's 3:30. Hopefully I'll get this done and loading before I go down to the doctor's to pick my prescription up and then to the pharmacy next door to get it made up. Should be fab. It's never ending, I tell you. There we go. That's all right. Bit of blue there. Because I can. And because I'm trying to mimic that variation. Because if I do it in one place, then I need to do it elsewhere. Nice thing about the warm weather is the pages do dry quickly. Which is a good thing. I don't know why I keep putting my pen down, because pencil down. I'm doing one section at a time. That's ridiculous. Come on, Angela, you can do more than one at a time. That's a good idea. Put some purple there, but I'm also going to put some blue right in the middle here. Because that's where there's some blue. Right, so let's get on with these. And then I've done all of these lines over on the other side, so I'm going to call it a day then. So that'll give me a chance to sort myself out and upload videos and stuff. And it'll keep this to just about an hour as well, because if I carry on going on too long, we're going to have a right pickle here, aren't we? I know you must probably like to see the gold in the middle of those sections there and the middle there, and I'll must probably add gold elsewhere. But I'm not going to do it now. These teeth, these things. So I think I'll have the darkest areas in the centre here. Rather than at the edge. So I'm going to say thank you all for joining me. Thank you for your kind wishes and thoughts and your lovely words about my art. Thank you if you subscribed to my channel. I appreciate it all very much. And thank you if you shared or been inspired by my art and you've tagged me in what you show online, because I do love to see what people do. And I hope that you look after yourselves and that you are gentle with yourselves and that you find time to be creative. So thank you once again for joining me. I shall turn this the right way up so we can, so you can see what's going on. And I most probably will carry on with this and the bee off, away from the camera, but show you what I get up to. Is that a deal? Is that all right? Every now and again I'll give you some pictures of this sketchbook and what I'm doing. So until we meet again, look after yourselves and take care. Ta-ra for now. Bye. Hoyle.